Fast and the Furious 7th film wasn't just a hit, it was Universal Studios' biggest hit to date, making more than the first 3 films combined.
It's extremely entertaining.
7, cracks the 1 billion mark. It's one of the biggest films ever made.
But the financial success of Furious 7 was bittersweet.
Paul passes away in November 2013 when they're already filming Furious 7.
It was just so stupid, an accident.
I was flabbergasted and brokenhearted because he's such a sweetheart.
Vin and Tyrese and a lot of others went over to the crash site to mourn him.
I love Paul Walker. I miss him every day.
Universal was in a tough spot because, for many, continuing without Paul Walker was unfathomable. But also escalating was the feud between The Rock and Vin Diesel, which was beginning to boil over.
I had heard rumors that there would be more, but I didn't know because of Paul not being there.
They didn't know if they should do it.
At a certain point, obviously, it becomes a business thing.
The rule that I seem to see is if the last film made money, we're gonna do it again.
Finally, Vin Diesel put an end to the rumors and speculation.
More Fast and Furious coming at ya. Franchise producer and star Vin Diesel with a big reveal on Instagram.
Diesel giving dates for 3 more movies from 2017 to 2021.
That's right, Fast and the Furious was coming back for not 1, not 2, but 3 films.
They thought, look at how much money we're still making. Yes, it might have been a little inflated because of the circumstances of that one, but it doesn't mean the next one's not going to make a boatload of money.
Reaction ranged from excitement to total shock.
What the hell is going on in here?
I mean, if I had $1 for the number of times that people ask me, what are you working on? I'm like, oh, I'm working on Fast and... They're making another one?
But Universal's marketing team needed a spin to bring in loyal Paul Walker fans.
They felt like they were still doing it for Paul and hopefully not, disrespecting that memory.
Which meant one thing.
Nobody's going to be able to replace him. Everybody kind of agreed with that. You're not going to come in and bring a character and call him Brian and all of a sudden it's going to be Brian.
So Universal doubled down on the one star they had left, Vin Diesel.
A lot of times you're like, okay, how would you, sell this movie in like, 1 sentence?
Luckily, screenwriter Chris Morgan had a pretty great sentence.
Dom goes bad. Dom turning his back on the family.
See, your team is about to go up against the only thing they can't handle.
What's that?
You.
It was exactly the big idea the Fast and Furious needed to shake things up. And Universal gave producers the budget to make it happen.
$250 million budget, which was by far the biggest budget they had had.
Casting for Fast 8 was well underway, and there were some heavy hitters coming on board, including the return of Kurt Russell.
Wow. Such a great cast. You add Charlize Theron.
A pair for every occasion.
So that was a big deal, as was Helen Mirren.
Who would have thought? Helen Mirren.
She is world class. I cannot believe that she's in these movies because she just elegance and class.
Mirren would be playing the badass mother of Deckard Shaw, once again played by Jason Statham.
Jesus, Mum. You're supposed to avoid the nerves.
Oh, shut up. Don't be such a baby.
In Fate of the Furious, Shaw actually joins the team.
I'm bringing in an extra pair of hands.
This would require some justification gymnastics from screenwriter Chris Morgan.
They find a way to make it conveniently that he's one of the only people who could possibly help this team.
Like it or not, you two are gonna work together.
Fate of the Furious had leveled up on the cast, but even with big stars, Universal had a problem. Their director was leaving after just 1 movie.
James Wan obviously pulls off a borderline miracle, making Furious 7 the success it is, given the circumstances under. You'd think he would come back for another, but he was not brought back. At the same time, he's working on Insidious 2, so going back to those horror roots. And in his place, they bring in F. Gary Gray, and they give him the keys to the car.
F. Gary Gray burst onto the scene with the smash hit Friday.
Damn!
and went on to receive critical acclaim for the NWA biopic Straight Outta Compton.
Nothing is more uncomfortable than following the box office success of $1.7 billion. Must have been very nerve-wracking.
Luckily for him, he already had relationships with many of the actors in the cast.
You know, directed Charlize and Jason Statham, both in Italian Job.
Vin Diesel, who he had a great relationship with from working on A Man Apart.
He had even directed The Rock in Be Cool.
Hey, come on, give me that eyebrow thing.
It was practically a family reunion. But like so many times before, the on-camera story of Fast and the Furious would be dictated by off-camera drama.
Vin Diesel saw himself as, you know, not only the main character now, which he had kind of taken from Paul Walker's character. They had kind of switched whose point of view it was. It was his movie. He's the A-lister.
But he wasn't the only A-lister.
It's no longer just Vin Diesel as this A-list star and The Rock as an up-and-coming big star.
Oh my God.
The Rock had just starred in San Andreas, which made over $470 million, and that quickly elevated his status to the level of superstar.
So he is as big a star as anyone. He knows his formula works. It's gotten him huge, huge success. We eventually learned that The Rock only agreed to do this movie if he had to film 0 scenes with Vin Diesel in person.
That's right. So, yeah, though there were tensions, yeah, without a doubt.
Now that they had the cast locked in, it was time to go back to work. And for the Fast and Furious franchise, that means one thing: epic stunts.
You want to try and build the action in each of the acts.
What are you doing?
And you get it so exponentially bigger that you have a slam dunk at the end where everybody wants to jump up in the air and clap and go crazy.
Up until now, they've taken down every vehicle imaginable, including planes, trains, leaving only
Submarines popping out of ice and explosions, you know, so all of those things are larger than life.
It was a mind-bending set piece, but not even Universal Studios could commandeer a submarine of that size.
We're gonna need a bigger truck.
So how are they gonna pull this one off?
Of course, being fast, we're really gonna go shoot this on ice.
Well, that should be easy. All they had to do was find a frozen lake.
The tricky part about the sequence we did was because of the ice melting, we shot it before the movie started.
That is to say, before writers had even scripted the scene.
The script wasn't done yet, so what do?
Well, usually you'd wait for the script, but the ice was melting faster than the writers could type. Time was running out.
We had 1 week.
So the crew went looking for a frozen lake in the very home of ice, Iceland.
We scouted many different locations.
Really found a place that we can shoot on a frozen lake.
And even though there was no script, they had actors.
Said, okay, why don't you have Tyrese come to Iceland and you shoot him?
Well, one actor. And unfortunately, he only liked ice in his drinks.
I don't like the cold.
He hates the cold.
Iceland.
Luckily, Tyrese agreed to take one for the team, or rather 15 for the team, as in 15 degrees below.
It was 10, 15 below there and wind blowing 60 knots.
It was cold as hell out there, man. And I was the only one from the cast that went there.
Sending love from Iceland. Let's go.
Everybody else filmed in front of a blue screen in Atlanta. No CG for me. Ridiculous.
The filmmakers had just 2 days, only one actor, and just one shot at capturing the magic. Who needs a script?
I had him there for 2 days, and he goes, if you can get me out in 1 day, just whatever it takes, you know, let me know. Anything you want, I will do. Just try to get me out 1 day. I said, all right, as long as you're there.
Tyrese was so cold, he was willing to run hot, if it meant getting home even 1 day sooner.
He was amazing. Anything I asked, he was there. He stood on the set, did every shot I wanted, did some of his own stunts. It was awesome.
Somehow, after just 24 freezing hours,
I go, I got it, thank you, brother. Hugged him, you know, you're done.
And Tyrese breathed a sigh of relief, which he could no doubt see in front of him. But all this was the easy part, because while you can direct actors, you can't direct melting ice. And the crew was inadvertently destroying the set.
First mistake was we put spikes that were about 2 inches long. They gouge big trenches in the ice, and your vehicles start dropping through the ice and disappearing.
Vehicles that happen to contain people.
Yes, there were a few people who went through the ice. None drowned.
which is why there were brave stunt people still willing to drive supercars where they were never designed to go.
We had to have the Lamborghini go underwater. So we had cut a hole in the ice, and Jay Lynch has to drive this Lamborghini under the water. So we put a cable on it, and we drug it underwater at speed from outside, and that's how you get it underwater quickly.
Speed was critical, because despite working on frozen water, the ice was not moving at a glacial pace.
And then as the scene started to go, the weather started to get nicer, the ice started to get thinner, and we started to run out of options.
At a certain point, the top starts to melt, and there was issues with that.
The most important stunt in the movie might have to be put on ice, because it couldn't be put on ice.
The big stunt where we were gonna blow the cars and the submarine's supposed to come through the lake. We ran out of time at this lake because it got too thin. We're like, no, we were in a panic.
With the ground literally melting underneath them, there was only one option: find another frozen lake. Meanwhile, Tyrese still wasn't off the hook, even back in Atlanta.
Jump in and do this scene.
I got to direct him when he's in the Lambo underwater. We had one crack at it because once you get the inside of that car wet, it looks wet.
Tyrese had to nail it in one, but at least this time he was warm. So, with 3 cameras rolling, they
pulled the plug and flooded a damn Lamborghini with Tyrese Gibson in it, man. It was awesome.
Oh, shit!
As production on the ice stunts wrapped, the script was finally completed, and the cast got a glimpse of their next destination.
In a place where no American studio movie has been set before.
This movie opens with Dominic Toretto and Letty off on their honeymoon of sorts.
In a place that held special meaning for Dominic Toretto.
We had always never fully known where is he from, what ethnicity is he, what is his background exactly, and they make clear in this one his character has Cuban roots.
This is a Cuban spirit. Tu espíritu.
Making Dominic Cuban was easy, but shooting in Cuba was politically, practically impossible. For starters, they need a green light directly from Washington.
The U.S. government cannot sanction this operation in any way.
At the time, simply going to Cuba was a crime.
You don't just get burned, you go to prison.
In fact, Hollywood hadn't been to Cuba since 1962's trade embargo, which, for all intents and purposes, froze diplomatic relations and trade between the two countries. But just like the frozen lake in Iceland, relations between the US and Cuba were thawing. Universal saw an opportunity to make not just a movie, but history.
It was really an effort of public relations, both lobbying in the US side and in the Cuban side.
And after some very delicate diplomacy, Fast and the Furious once again did the impossible. They brought a little bit of Hollywood to the streets of Havana.
We're in Cuba flying helicopters over the capital.
And the Cubans, when they saw the helicopters and the Russian arm and the e-bikes, they were like, oh my God, they're invading. I was like, no. It's not like that.
Cuba wasn't just another Fast and the Furious locale. It was the beginning of diplomatic relations.
That was a real challenge. Take a class from the State Department, how you work in a foreign country under American guidelines and rules.
After an adjustment, Cuba embraced the American crew.
It was just a lot of fun and getting to know them.
But it wouldn't be that easy. Getting into Cuba would be one thing. Actually working with the Cuban government would prove to be an even bigger challenge.
You don't have such a thing as unions or production services companies.
Getting the gear to the island would prove tricky, as they had to ship everything over on a barge. Not only that, but much of it was considered contraband in Cuba.
We imported pyrotechnics, which were forbidden in Cuba. We imported telecommunications, which were forbidden in Cuba. It was really, really complicated.
U.S. and Cuban relations had been on ice for a half a decade, and it began to look like it might take another half decade for them to thaw.
So I had to go and prep the cars, so they gave me a stretch of road somewhere, and there was a police captain that came, and I speak a little Spanish. I knew what he was saying. He was saying, I don't take orders from this guy.
And what could have been a roadblock quickly evaporated once they found common ground. No, not Vin.
And he saw the cars that we had mocked up, this, black Ford, that it was so fast, and it was so wild. And I asked him, I was like, you wanna go for a ride? Put you in the passenger seat. And he was like, okay. As soon as he came back from that ride, we became best friends after that.
You earned my respect.
He invited me to his house for dinner. It was awesome.
And speaking of joyrides, the car team was having a hard time finding picture cars that could properly pay respect to Cuba's unique car culture.
They wanted to pay homage to the 50s and the 60s cars.
Cuba has an abundance of cars from the 50s and 60s because that's when the embargo began. Cars are so valuable, they aren't just thought of as vehicles.
They would consider them part of the family. They would be customized over generations.
They take great care of their things in the engine, whatever. They'll do what they have to keep it working.
Mira, man, un motor de barco.
No way.
Yeah, lo que sea para tener a mi cariño trabajando.
The tuner team couldn't wait to shine a spotlight on Cuba's incredible car culture.
We ain't racing no quarter mile here. We race the Cuban mile.
And they would get their chance in the film's opening race scene.
The first thing we wanted to do was to make it look like Dominic is in a car that is never going to win.
Pull the seats, the doors, the battery. If it ain't the motor, take it off.
He's in a beat-up piece of junk car, and he uses his ingenuity as a car aficionado to make this car faster.
What are you doing?
Poor man's turbo. Pull the vacuum line and hold on.
But naturally, in dramatic fashion, Dom's ingenuity led to a very dangerous situation.
The problem is that the faster you go, the more the fire wants to get close to the driver. So that's what we said. He has to throw a reverse 180 and go backwards. Now the fire is blowing away from him.
But by solving one problem, Jack created a new one.
You can't really go very fast when you have steering in the back, because any little movement wants to flip the car around.
Driving a flaming car in reverse would prove a proper challenge for both Dom and race director Jack Gill.
We've got to do 80 or 90 miles an hour. You can't have the steering in the back.
It was a problem that would require an outside-of-the-box idea and a top-of-the-car driver.
Well, I've got another guy on the roof of the car, and he's in what we call a pod. He's steering from the top of the car, and that's how we did that in reverse.
With all the excitement, the team looked to showcase Cuba every step of the way, using some real Cuban cars in the race.
These four guys, they had this one beautiful 56 Chevy. It was green, and they're just polishing it. You could tell it was their baby. And I'm telling them I need to get in the car. They're looking at me, a woman getting in my car, forget about it, never.
But when the time came, stunt woman Debbie Evans grabbed the wheel and showed everyone how it's done.
I'm driving that car through as Steve Kelso comes and spins a 180 on fire. And I'm like right next to him. They had to be their pants. You know, it was the funniest thing ever.
And while the reverse 180 went off without a hitch, the same couldn't be said for the ending.
Dom can't stop his car because it's an out-of-control car, and he spins the steering wheel sideways to miss all these people and jumps out of the car and rolls. And now we're getting ready to launch the car up.
With time running out, they had to get it in one.
You know, we roll camera, we get ready to go, and the car comes flying in.
But what was supposed to be the big finale ended up a dud.
It never really goes anywhere.
Fate of the Furious was off to a rocky start. Their one and only shot at this stunt had failed, and their time on the island was coming to an end.
We didn't have time to put another car in to do it. We pulled the car out of the way, we rolled all the cameras for all the backgrounds, and we've shot what we call a plate. And then we went back to the studio onto a blue screen, and we launched a car up in the air with all the cameras in exactly the same spot and spiraled it up in the air. And they cut all those pieces together to make it all work.
With digital compositing there to save the day, the crew bid farewell to Cuba and headed back to the States to film the next big set piece, the prison breakout.
We filmed at a place called OFS in Atlanta.
And we were able to, with all the staircases to get all the different levels, we turned it into a steel prison of like little boxes.
You know, that color looks good on you.
My movies have very specific color palettes to them.
The art department used a very simple tool to help realize Bill's production design for the jailhouse.
You know, I break out my Benjamin Moore fan deck and go, let's do this one.
I like the look of metal, dark metals and dark blues in there, and I think yellow, crazy orange colors, vibrant, but yet, you know, lethal, dangerous. You know, it's a prison. doesn't have to be just gray concrete.
With the look and feel of the prison set, they began choreographing and filming the epic fight scene.
The idea was that they would be in a basement somewhere and they would have to climb their way out.
But JJ saw a flaw in their plan.
And unlike you, I ain't gonna be here long.
You bring a shovel, did ya?
And I merely pointed out that to climb up something, it's never really interesting, but it's easier to jump down from something. Gravity would be a problem.
And for JJ, more obstacles equals more fun.
You have to create a problem for your protagonist, and then you have to watch how he solves it. You kind of look for everything if there's doors to slam on somebody's hand.
But as they made their way through the action, it became apparent that their biggest obstacle was the clock.
The hardest part of that was the short time frame that we had. They needed 5 days, maybe 6, but we did it in 3, which was gnarly. I felt like I aged like 2 months while we shot that.
As the schedule grew tighter, so did concerns over reports of Vin Diesel's behavior, which did not help relations with The Rock.
He was doing things on his own schedule. If he wasn't ready to shoot, if he wanted to do this instead of this.
There were fears the race to finish the film just might turn into a demolition derby.
Fate of the Furious is where it all started to fully fall apart.
And Universal, unable to fix the situation, offered the next best thing, a distraction.
I think we crashed 360 cars.
And nowhere was that more apparent than in this scene, which was surprisingly hard to find a location for.
No one would let us drop cars out of a parking structure.
Justifiably so.
They know that the cars will probably penetrate the roads. They're going to destroy power cables, sewer lines, water lines, gas lines, or anything. Most big cities were very reluctant to let us drop cars from 40 feet.
That was until they called the city of Cleveland.
They actually let us send cars out of a parking structure. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
We found a great street that had a very sort of New York vibe, and then it was just a lot of rigging.
We'd put X's on the ground to say, this is where they're gonna hit. We'd launch them out, and then a bunch of stunt guys in other cars would come in and crash into the bunch until we got 48 cars in an entire group.
I was in a taxi cab, I was in a police car.
And sometimes you're going underneath a car that hasn't fallen yet. So it's very, very dangerous.
Oh, and I was even a seat. When all the cars were coming around, we put ourselves in a seat cushion to make us look like nobody's driving it.
It was one of those where a lot of great people and a lot of timing, and it paid off.
And as the symphony of smashing sedans rained from above,
I was like, Spiro's making it rain cars. What a gangster.
Meanwhile, the film's most surprising moment would have to go to another gangster, one that was retconned into a nice guy.
Cops behind bars. Would you look at that?
Turns out Deckard Shaw is not a bad guy. He was framed for all the bad things he had done.
Just like you Brits, rewriting history, huh? All I know is it wasn't me that was thrown out of a 4-story window.
We would find out that he was a great guy. He was, a hero.
Captain Deckard Shaw distinguished himself by acts of gallantry at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty.
Making the man who killed Han a hero would prove to be a divisive choice.
Don't think we've forgotten everything that you've done.
We are not teaming up with this guy.
And one way to hopefully win over audiences was to have him rescue Dom's baby from the clutches of the enemy.
It's gonna get noisy.
This scene is one written by Chris Morgan, and he got a lot of pushback for.
While most films would have their action star fight to get to the baby, Chris flipped the trope and had Jason fight alongside the baby to get out.
There were some people that were like, no, it won't go over well, endangering the baby. I was like, oh, no. He's got it right, for sure.
Because in addition to showcasing Jason's amazing stunt work, the scene let him flex his comedy chops.
Where's that smile? There it is.
I always think Jason is the best when there's a little bit of comedy involved.
Is that you or him?
JJ knew the bigger the stakes, the bigger the laughs.
You're creating this huge problem. He's got his friend's son that he has to protect. And on a plane at, 15,000 feet. This is awesome.
Jason Statham's big stunt was a wrap, but the film's biggest stunt still needed to be completed, so it was back to Iceland.
We actually blew 4 or 5 military vehicles up in the air.
And while the submarine would be digitally inserted later, the explosion was very, very real.
The special effects team put huge pyrotechnic charges under the ice, and then they pulled in real vehicles and then to simulate a submarine that penetrates the ice. We blew up the ice.
We did the biggest explosion there they'd ever had, so that was fun.
As cars were blowing up in Iceland, back in the States, the actors were also going off.
The Rock Vin Diesel drama continues. Rock took to Instagram. My female co-stars are always amazing and I love them. My male co-stars, however, different story. Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals while others don't. The ones that don't are too chicken shit to do anything about it anyway, candy asses.
It's very clear that he's speaking about one person in particular, and that is Vin Diesel. There was some back and forth. Each made comments at different times.
The only thing I can say is I wish it didn't happen.
I feel sad because, you know, the two of them together is dynamite, you know, and not the way that it became, but dynamite in the strength of what they can do together.
It appeared The Rock might have one foot out the door. But even more concerning were the rumors that he might not be the only one eyeing an exit.
8, I think, left a lot of fans kind of like, oh, I don't know. Are we hitting a point where it's time to wrap things up?
Universal was set to release their first Fast and the Furious film since Tokyo Drift without Paul Walker. And while the initial reaction wasn't ideal,
they're making another one?
Universal believed in Fast, and that faith was rewarded.
$1.2 billion made, huge success, proved while fans may miss Paul Walker's character that they were certainly ready to come out in droves for the Fast and the Furious.
But just because fans saw the film, it didn't mean they liked it. And Shaw's redemption story proved to be a retcon gone wrong.
It's almost like he was given a pass for having killed one of the heroes of the franchise.
It wasn't the reaction the studio wanted. Within days, a hashtag began to emerge.
The hashtag Justice for Han movement.
As the movement was gaining traction on social media, another actor had stepped back into the spotlight as The Rock made his departure official.
Hobbs will not be in any of the main Fast movies anymore. That's too bad.
I'll get out my way.
That's okay. They can do greatness separately instead of together.
There's a dynamic that The Rock brings that his absence, I think, is felt.
With so many problems, the franchise's check engine light was going into overtime. Universal needed someone that can get under the franchise's hood and fix things fast.
I was like, okay, who can we get that really knows this franchise better than anybody? And that's when they went back to Justin.
But it had been years since Justin left the franchise.
He thought he was done with Fast movies. He hadn't even seen 7 or 8.
But in a supernatural twist, Justin had received a vision for the Fast and the Furious. A vision that would become prophecy.
And he said he kind of woke up one day with this idea for Dominic Toretto to have a brother.
You got a brother?
And that's kind of really what got his mind going about returning for F9.
It was official. Justin Lin was back.
Super excited. Had a great ride with the other directors, but it's like, you know, home sweet home.
After a round of hugs and handshakes, it was time to get to work.
The hook of this one is Dom has a brother.
Who also happens to be some kind of super spy with his own private army, who drives literally like a bat out of hell.
But not everyone was on board.
All this time, we had no clue that Dom, the ultimate family man, has this long-lost brother?
That was until they found out who'd be playing the brother.
The brother you're looking for? It's from an old life.
And his name is John Cena.
When they bring in John Cena as his brother, you're like, okay, that's kind of strange, but maybe, I guess they could.
I know the Torettos are quite the mixed bloodlines, but I never detected a Nordic strain.
So one wrestling star was replaced by another.
John Cena, massive star in the world of professional wrestling, pursuing the acting gig. He had found some success, but was not yet a massive star in that world. Very similar to what happened with The Rock.
Jacob's storyline would take the series full circle.
That's my dad.
Back to the roots of the first film.
Coming up in the pro stock car circuit.
Like The Godfather 2, F9 would simultaneously tell the story of 2 generations of the Toretto family.
I watched my dad burn to death.
To do these 2 concurrent storylines from a narrative standpoint, that's a big challenge.
Justin's next challenge would prove a personal one. It was time to get justice for Han.
Justin wasn't really satisfied with what happened, you know, in the aftermath of Han's death.
And so, once again,
nice clubhouse.
Han rose from the dead.
The fans want to see Han's character, so to bring him back and make it work, is brilliant.
But he wouldn't be the only familiar face from Tokyo Drift to be returning.
They sent me the script and I read it and I was happy to be a part of it. And so Justin Lin, we had that conversation, how my character was going to fit, into the puzzle.
I heard it's all good. That tweet just saved us 0.4 seconds.
So he told me that basically Sean Boswell was off building this rocket car.
Say hello to the 2-second car.
Even though the franchise had been raking in record profits, the glue holding it all together was starting to crack.
Michelle Rodriguez made a social media post where she essentially said, if they don't start doing better for the female characters, then this is probably it for me. Like, I'm gonna walk away.
Now you got a problem.
Michelle kind of pointed out that she's been working for 20 years with Jordana Brewster. How many lines had they exchanged? She counted on one hand.
Thanks to Michelle, Letty and Mia finally had their moment.
It's a change of pace, huh?
She pushed them to kind of do better.
So when production kicked off on Fast 9, they made sure to let Mia and Letty in on the action.
Letty, Mia, down, now!
Shoot fast. You know what these are? They're guns. Let's shoot. It was a lot of fun. Again, using the environment. Put a guy's head through a TV. When they built the apartment, I just immediately went through there and said, hey, can we change this? Can we put this? Because his head would be perfect to smack into that.
A lot of times we have to pad things in spaces so that actors can hit up against it and it's soft.
This is made of foam, neoprene. Everything's built that way so we can create a lot of havoc and impact.
The women's liberation of F9 continued with Ramsey's thrill ride through Edinburgh.
Hey, that was not my fault!
Did get to wreck about 13 or 14 cars and tear up half of Edinburgh.
Crashing cars like a demolition derby was par for the course on a Fast and the Furious film, but as filming continued, it was obvious that something out of the ordinary was brewing.
When you walk in Justin's office, he's got toy cars laid out, helicopters, he's got cars that are hanging from a thread, and I kept watching him smack this thing around a pole. Like, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm trying to figure out how to get this bridge that's out thing. And I was like, interesting.
Which resulted in this gravity-defying scene.
The denial of physics in the films has taken me a little while to get behind, and now I'm 100% drinking the Kool-Aid.
But Justin was just getting warmed up as the audience's ability to suspend belief was about to be put to the test. Justin Lin has yet to direct a Fast movie that didn't raise the bar for action, building some incredible, if not improbable, scenarios. But in Fast 9, Justin took a new approach. Instead of having the cars navigate an impossible situation, what if the cars themselves were the impossible situation?
One of the major of many major set pieces in Fast 9 revolves around a magnetized car, flinging cars across streets.
I remember we were looking, where are we gonna shoot this? Where are they gonna let us go down a main street? A lot of times people say, oh yeah, we'll let you do this, and then you get there and they start giving you too many restrictions, so you have to be careful.
Ever cautious, Spiro got word that Tbilisi, the capital of the Republic of Georgia, might in fact be the real deal.
They seem sincere. We're gonna give you this key to the city. Their Rodeo Drive, their main downtown street.
It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that had Spiro's wheels spinning.
And I had thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if there was a washer and dryer store and the magnet car goes by and all that stuff gets sucked out of the store? How it would look like if I was in that store. So I remember I told Justin about it and he goes, yeah, they wouldn't have stores like that in Tbilisi. I go, Justin, the audience is not gonna go and look up, because he's so perfectionist. And so he didn't go for it at first.
But Spiro didn't quit.
If I think the audience is gonna really like something, haven't seen it before, I push for that.
Thanks to Spiro's irresistible pleas, the team set off to Tbilisi.
So then we went scouting for the first time with him there. And we're scouting down these streets.
And boom, what should appear?
It was like the Holy Grail behind Justin. I said, Justin, freeze, don't move. And He goes, well, I go, stand there. And I went and got my camera. I go, smile. And he smiled, and I took a picture of him. And then he looked behind him, and he's like, ah, you know. So he said, okay, we'll do that sequence.
Spiro was so proud of the scene that he commemorated it with a cameo. Well, not his cameo, his dog.
I got to put Coco in the movie, where Vin saves Coco from being shot by the bad guys. You can see that my wife pulls Coco into her arms, and the bullets just miss Coco because Dom saves them.
We asked Coco to comment. Unfortunately, her NDA was ironclad.
Treats, all right, come on, treats.
As fast as you can say the next big thing, the magnetic truck was overshadowed by a 9-year-old.
Justin told me about his son giving him an idea, and I'm going, okay, this I gotta hear.
Turns out the only thing cooler than a magnetic truck is a magnetic plane.
Plane flying over and grabbing John Cena's car.
And I thought that was super cool.
That was Oakley's idea, Justin's son.
And just when it looked like there were no more boundaries to push, the team found one last place they could go.
It had become a running gag that, okay, the only place left for the franchise to go is to go to space.
We are headed to outer space.
Going into space?
That's exactly what we're gonna do.
In a Fiero?
Pontiac Fiero kind of looks like a space ship, I guess.
They really did it. They went to space.
You know ain't nobody gonna believe us, right? You right.
Well, at first you're thinking, you know, this is crazy. Are they gambling on something they might lose on?
Somehow, Justin was able to kind of walk this fine line of acknowledging, look, yes, of course the notion of sending a car into space is nuts.
This is crazy, bro.
There's a certain chemistry between Roman and Tej. Justin found the sweet spot for this.
How much candy did you eat? Well, I eat candy when I get nervous.
Hats off to Tej and Roman for selling it.
You can send those guys anywhere. Send them in the sewer, bury them alive, send them to space. They're gonna entertain us.
Finally, on June 25th, 2021, F9 was released into theaters across America.
It making in the high 700 millions was certainly a steep drop-off from 1.2 and 1.5 billion.
It was the kind of drop that would make anyone wonder.
Is the franchise falling off? Is the fatigue finally set in? Is going to space a little bit too much?
But it was a number that needed context. COVID had crippled movie theaters, and while F9 could be considered disappointing compared to the other Fast films, F9 was a godsend to struggling theaters.
It's one of the first ones that really truly revived the box office.
But just as the franchise was set to hit double figures, Vin Diesel would see another key member of the Fast family abdicate. 6 days into production on Fast 10, longtime director Justin Lin stepped down. It was a massive blow. But if Fast could launch submarines through ice and cars into space, surely Universal can find a replacement for the director of a $250 million movie, right? Well, whatever happens with Fast 10, it is hard to imagine a world without any more Fast and the Furious movies. Because this petrol-powered juggernaut can't seem to be stopped.
It's in the top shelf. It's up there with Star Wars, Marvel, Jurassic Park, all the others.
And as Vin and his pals, or not pals, contemplate the next chapter.
This is the end of this mythology. Will the Fast and Furious universe disappear? No. It'll be more formidable than ever.
It's worth remembering the humble beginnings and the man and his Honda.
Because of that car, it led me into the whole world of street racing.
And an article that changed lives and made a lot of money for many, many people.
I don't know if anyone envisioned that it would be the tentpole moneymaker that it is.
They done 10, man. I mean, what other movie has done 10? That's a long ride.
Little did I know, at that time it was going to become a cultural phenomenon.
It's bananas. You know, no one saw that coming. From the grounded realism of the first film.
You know, they're stealing DVD players in the first movie.
to a series of escalating, action-packed stories. Yep, still escalating. The sky isn't even the limit for Fast and the Furious. But these stories represent more than just highly entertaining cinema.
Fast and Furious is one of the most awesome, ridiculous machines I've ever worked on.
I just can't stress enough that this movie has been one of the most amazing gifts of my life.
I get called the godfather of it, the creator, the this and that. It does mean a lot to me.
I'm proud of it, as if I was a part of it all the way through, but I was there at the first stages, so it's definitely a foundation to be built on.
But amidst the explosions and excitement and success, the core values of Fast and the Furious don't require any special effects, because these fictional lawbreakers were willing to risk it all for family.
Everyone has a family, everyone starts a family. Family is a global, beautiful thing.
Most important thing in life will always be the people in this room.
But at the heart of this franchise, it isn't the fictional family that made these movies so successful. It's the real-life, behind-the-scenes family of filmmakers and risk-takers that we need to thank. And, well, it's a big family at that, with new members and family members we've lost.
After Paul's tragedy, the expectation of who's going to fill those shoes, which was impossible, right? The caring, the humanity, the friendship between these two actors was just irreplaceable.
Even though they weren't real brothers, they were essentially brothers for us as a team.
In each of the films that came after his tragic accident, there's homage to Paul Walker.
Everyone, meet Brian.
From the first film to the last and beyond, it's thanks to this family of filmmakers and their collective rule-breaking of the very rules of Hollywood that pushed Fast and the Furious to make and break history.
Finally, the whole world was able to go to a movie and see someone in a film that looks like them.
People say, you know, representation matters, and I think this is an example of that. Characters that are at the forefront of the story, that are very integral to this story, I think that's very important to Black culture.
The level of diversity that was in the Fast and the Furious, Hollywood has just caught up with 20 years later.
Having all these characters from different backgrounds come together and help each other is really beautiful.
People of color can have their superheroes and spies too, and they did it, and they found an audience, and they went buck wild.
Universal knew it. They were the first one that had the balls to jump out there and actually have a movie poster that represented it. Hollywood literally took Black people off of movie posters when they start promoting these films overseas. And why? Black people don't translate into box office success overseas. And that is a narrative that has been around for almost 100 years, and the Fast and the Furious changed that.
Salute, mi familia.
Salute. Salute. Like everything about our DNA is diversity, inclusion, one race, love, 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 love. And we may not ever win an Oscar, but Hollywood has been changed forever. Fast and the Furious, the franchise gets the credit.